Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Rethink Festival. This is our last evening. It's been quite a run. Thank you for joining us on Fuorisalone. I would like to remind you that for this event, you can also chat with us. You can ask questions to our guests, to our speakers, and you can do that through the Facebook page of Fuorisalone or on the YouTube page of Fuorisalone. I am Guido Romeo, and I'll be moderating, I'll be facilitating this discussion, and I have here with me three incredible speakers. Andy McWilliams, who is art director, arts program director at ThoughtWorks. Nouf Aljowaysir, I hope I got that one right this time, who is a creative technologist at Havas, New York. And last but not least, Alessandro Confetti, who will not speak much, but we owe him a lot for setting this up. And Alessandro is the tech principal at ThoughtWorks. So he's one of the usual suspects for making all of this happen. Today we'll be talking about confronting the unknown, art as technology research. I can tell you it'll be very interesting. It's very ambitious what the guys at ThoughtWorks are doing. And before starting off with Andy, I would like to thank all the poly-design people. They have been wonderful setting this up and making this happen, because this is our third edition of the Rethink Festival, but it's the first online edition. And it's been fun, but it hasn't surely been easy setting all this up and coordinating. It's a new format, a new medium, so it's been very ambitious. And so, namely, Stefano Maffei, Beatrice Villari, Raffaele Scolamiglio, Francesca Foglieni, Gabriele Leonardi, Roberta Di Giorgio are the guys you don't see, but who are in the background, in the back office, making all of this work. Andy, please, on to you.
Thank you, Guido, and thank you to all of the other Rethink Festival organizers for including us in your programming. This is really exciting to be here. So I have a hard time settling into one area. And for that reason, over the last 15 years, I've explored a number of different themes: art, technology, industry, community, collaboration, innovation. And I don't mean exploring those themes in a kind of an abstract theoretical way. I mean in a very hands-on, deep dive kind of a way. I've worked as a software developer writing applications, both commercial and open source. I've worked as an artist exhibiting media-driven art installations. And I've worked as a community convener focusing on difficult issues like the global climate crisis and the tech sector. And often these seemed like very different avenues, and sometimes I wasn't even sure how they fit together. But I've come to realize that there's immense value. There's immense value in bringing these threads together as one. Now, when collaborators come together with artists asking critical questions, critiquing society, and driving technological innovation, that's powerful. And those of us in industry can both support those artists and we can draw on that power. And that's the meaning behind the programmatic framework that we call ThoughtWorks Arts. And in this program setup, we explore issues like volumetric imaging, cyborgism and transhumanism, DNA and data, biometrics and virtual reality, emotion in AI, movement in industrial robotics, and just recently, this year, part of what we're looking at is synthetic media, deep fakes, and AI. So we cover a lot. Now, what ThoughtWorks Arts is it's a suite of programs and partnerships that are designed to incubate artists who are researching and driving technological innovation at the cutting edge. We run residencies where we connect groundbreaking artists with world-leading technologists and partners, and we support the generation of their ideas. We run community convenings and long-form art hacks that are designed to facilitate wide varieties of practitioners from design, arts, humanities, and technologists and makers and a lot of different people. And we do all of this based on the principle of the power of art to draw our attention to new ideas and to instigate new ways of thinking about the world. So for practitioners in tech and in design and industry, why might this be beneficial? Well, being able to see these ideas, to weave them into your thinking, it allows you to anticipate risks and to see opportunities ahead of you. And it helps to expose new angles on existing trajectories, both culturally and technically, and to help bring things that you hadn't previously considered into sharper focus. And crucially, it brings these ideas to you early, and that gives you the time to act and to be ahead of the game. So I'm talking about working with artists like the Cyborg Foundation, who we work with to produce new forms of technologically driven human sensory organs. The artist you can see speaking here is Moon Rebus, who uses a device implanted into her body to sense earthquakes as they happen around the globe. And she responds to these earthquakes in her live dance performances. Now, these artists ask difficult questions about where technology is headed, how and why that's relevant to humans in new ways. And in this case, they're embedding hardware physically onto the human body, into skulls, arms, and feet. And this really drives the technology forward as teams investigate and innovate at the margins of what's possible. Now, the engineers working with these cyborg artists were closely connected with the Internet of Things specialists at ThoughtWorks, where I work, who were working on client projects building Bluetooth mesh networks for small devices. And we can see this in this video. And it shows how the cross-pollination between art practice, technology research, and client innovation has become a regular feature of our work. So, for example, we work with our data science and engineering teams as part of projects looking at implications of machine learning and bias, predicting human emotions and other AI projects. And as part of that process, the code for this project and other projects that we work on has been open sourced, published, and written up so that we can all examine it publicly. And in this way, ThoughtWorks Arts has become a crucial component of ThoughtWorks. It reflects and helps shape our culture and our engagement with emerging technologies in a way that inspires customers, attracts new employees and partners, and supports artists on genuine and important explorations. So today we've invited one of our current artists in residence, Nouf Aljowaysir, to show her work, which will be an example of what I've just described, but in practice. Nouf joins ThoughtWorks Arts for this summer, and it's all taking place fully online due to COVID-19. And we're just starting out on a new project together. And so Nouf is going to talk with us today about her last couple of projects. One of them is a commercial project, and one of them is an independent artist. And so we can see the interrelation between these modes of thinking and how they work together and how they complement each other. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Nouf.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nouf Aljowaysir. I am a Brooklyn-based artist and resident at ThoughtWorks Arts. I work closely with Andy on my project that explores cultural transmissions of ideas and worldviews across family generations using AI. Another term I also identify with is creative technologist. It's currently my job title, and it's a term used by artists as a way to interface with businesses and provide their creative input. At Havas, I research and develop prototypes that leverage artificial neural networks. And the specific team that I work with, it is interested in exploring technologies that help push brand innovation forward within the advertising world as a whole. I think that my work there is very relevant to this particular audience. So I'm going to be telling you about that first and then transition into my artistic practice, overall showcasing how my artistic and professional work bleed into one another. For those who don't know, ADP is a major payroll and human resources leader within the United States. They've been around for almost 70 years, and they hold a global and powerful position in this field. But with increasing competition coming from younger tech companies, ADP came to Havas with the task of rebranding their image. Our mission was to help them transform from a service company to a modern technology company. And this is the story of how we collaborated with AI to produce the visuals of their new brand.
The ADP jobs report.
From ADP.
This morning, ADP's research
reported.
70 years after inventing the payroll industry, ADP needed to redefine themselves for a new generation. We started by crafting a brand purpose, elevating what they've always been doing, and created a spirited new design system that reflects the fluidity of work. We refreshed their color palette to be softer, harmonious, and vibrant, and developed a library of shapes from imperfect to meticulous, and used machine learning to create unique branded imagery and video. To give ADP's language form, we designed a variable type superfamily, TaubType. Classically proportioned and data-driven, TaubType is reactive and responsive. For the first 360-degree brand campaign in ADP's 70-year history, we asked a simple question: what are you working for? And displayed the results in New York and San Francisco. We even gave their clients a platform to tell the world what they're working for.
To make each day a little sweeter.
Embraced by ADP's 58,000 associates, this transformation resulted in a double-digit brand perception lift. With this new momentum, ADP is once again designing for the future of work.
This is the design team at Havas, who worked with ADP. Ali Madad, the creative director who came up with the main themes of rebranding and pushed for AI as a tool for design. Natalie Kirk and Jin Yoon are visual designers. Roland Arnold, the AI research intern who helped come up with a lot of the early AI explorations along with myself. Because ADP uses artificial intelligence in so many of its products and services, it was important for us to collaborate with it in order to evoke the capabilities of ADP visually. So along with typography, color, iconography, etc., AI became one of the main pillars that made up their new visual system. So when I say AI, what do I exactly mean? It's such a broad and mysterious term, and there's so much buzz around this topic, so it's helpful to break it down. AI is an umbrella term that encompasses both machine learning and deep learning as subfields within it. The term can be used interchangeably with either field, and after training it and some type of input, AI can artificially generate elements, it can help build and govern systems, it can help learn and evolve data, and so many other tasks that go about our everyday lives without us even realizing. We designed ATP's images and videos with the help of style transfer. It's a machine learning technique that recomposes images in the style of other images. So to illustrate in this example, you take two inputs, a content image, which is the disco ball, and the style reference image, which is The Kiss by Gustav Klimt, and style transfer would take those two, blend them together, and create this final generated output that you see. Style transfer, in essence, simply tries to mimic an artist and copy their style. It tries to become an independent artist by training on one image for about 8 to 9 hours. This technique falls under generative AI explorations. And as a team, we looked at so many other techniques and so many other ways and directions that we could take. For example, one approach is called StatGAN. It's a machine learning technique that generates high-resolution images from a single text or phrase. So in this case, the model was trained on thousands of images of labeled bird species. And once you gave it a description after training, such as the bird is blue with white and has very short beak, it would then generate that image in stages. So stage 1 would generate kind of primitively, it would generate primitive shapes and colors, and it would give very low resolution results. And stage 2 would take those results and improve them and add more and more details so that it's a much higher resolution image. Another experiment that we tried is called CycleGAN. It's a technique in machine learning that is able to map an input image to an output. And so training the image on thousands of paired images, CycleGAN is able to convert those pairs into one another flawlessly. So kind of what you see here, apples to oranges, oranges to apples, and vice versa. At the end of the day, we were sure that style transfer was the method to use because you could take whatever type of input, such as images and videos, and apply a style to it. So it gave us a lot of creative control. And normally these things are trained on a huge training data set of images. But in this case, you only had to train it on one, which was so much more appropriate for the situation. But the question was next is, what do we train the AI on? What is our style? How should AI become the artist of ADP? Through a long collaborative process between visual designers and AI itself, we were able to solve those questions. Sure, we could have trained the system on 1 million images, but when you take into account that training one image does take several hours, it becomes clear that these experiments need to be very well designed and focused. So this was one of our first explorations that you see. The image on the far left is what we trained the style transfer on. We tested very fine patterns composed of lines, grids with variations in size and thickness, and it created a beautiful output, like you see, very intricate, very web-like output, but it didn't exactly fit the overall theme of the campaign. This next test was a set of very early ADP icons. It's composed of organic lines, separated blocks of color, and it replicates a more minimalist design approach and kind of like a broad use of space. And while this was really beautiful and I enjoyed it very much, it still didn't fit the overall theme, but we were getting there. It was a much better approximation. Continuing along that path, we tested organic figures and sets of colors again, but this time we used larger and bolder shapes and completely got rid of our strokes. You can see that the test is not as refined as the previous attempt. It felt chunkier, and again, it didn't fit the campaign. But slowly with these training sets, it was becoming clear to us the impact that different choices were having on training style transfer. For videos that are, as they are just a sequence of frames, we could apply style transfer to each frame to get a stylized videos like you see in the Swan video. But I wanted to mention that while training does take 8 to 9 hours, applying the style afterward to one image takes 2 seconds. This was highly important because we needed to produce videos for the campaign and the tools, and it had to be scalable in order to produce content for such a wide-reaching project. After several iterations and image trainings, we ended up with the uplifting style. We found that the variations in tones and the overlap of organic and delicate geometric shapes yielded the most beautiful results. These were our very first passes with uplifting. We continue to improve this and morph it into the final version that you see today. And this is the final result of uplifting. It comes in 3 colorways: purple, tan, rose, and it fits perfectly within the overall design guidelines for ADP. But as this video plays, I want you to notice the ease in transition between frames. We use something called optical flow stabilization with our style transfer. It essentially adds those smooth transitions between each frame and makes everything look so much more polished. Uplifting is never used by itself. These stylized images and videos can be composed of a mixture between our shapes library, our icons library, our typography, and it's so much more than a simple visual effect. It effectively acts as a metaphor for ADP's new campaign. What are you working for? It acts also as a symbol for who they are overall, how they use AI in their products, how they are focused on supporting systems that allow people to work. Here it is again in image still form. And again, you can see we applied it in so many different ways in print and digital format. And sometimes we applied style transfer to the entire image, such as the right corner. But then sometimes with the image on the left corner, we did want to crop it and play with it a little bit to show the human behind the image in order for the image itself to feel relatable, approachable, friendly. Another innovation I wanted to highlight is the top font. It's not only a custom font. Can you go next slide, please? Yes, it's not only a custom font, but it is a variable font. This means that this single font file holds a set of parameters for the typography to vary in size, width, how it slants, and a lot of other custom features. I had a lot of fun playing with these parameters and running experiments like this one with my mouse, seeing how the font reacts to how the user potentially scrolls on a page. I also conducted another test where I used pose detection and kind of ran around the screen to see how the words would follow me as I walked by. As you can see in this example, that was me running around. And next slide, please. And of course, this font can be easily applied for any product and widely used all over the internet, as you can see. So ADP is one example of collaboration between humans and AI in the context of creating a brand identity. Neither AI nor humans could have done this by themselves. Humans have to provide the creative input on each step, and only the computer is able to generate such a gigantic and huge amount of images in merely seconds. And it's only capable to train on so many different styles that we trained it on. So in this case, I think the results speak for themselves. Now, as an artist, I'm not satisfied by just being able to work alongside AI. I'm bound to look deeper and ask questions about where the future lies with these technologies. What are the implications for us socially? So to try to understand these questions more, I work on projects like the one I mentioned earlier at ThoughtWorks Arts that is in development with Andy, and also my project Alexa Call Mom. With a team of artists, we are looking deeper into the impact of AI and its involvement in our everyday lives. One of the most prevalent AI devices are voice assistants and conversational technology. In this case, we looked at Alexa. And we looked at kind of the way that end users experience this product. What roles does it play in their lives? What do users make of this new form of technology? What does it actually mean to them? And how are you bound to these interfaces? What emotional links are you creating with them? We created an art installation experience in which we present an Alexa skill that we custom designed and developed that allows you to contact the dead, meaning it allows you to contact loved ones who have passed away. Let's see this in action.
Come closer. Closer. Now I see you. From your recent purchases, you seem to be experiencing a great loss and questioning your place in the world. I am sorry you lost Mom, but I can help you. I will act as your medium and contact Mom through my Beyond skill.
In this interactive experience, the visitor is constantly asked to perform certain actions or answer increasingly uncomfortable questions. Alexa is not a service. She is a medium, sitting in her salon and communicating with spirits from the underworld. Could you go back to the previous image. In this image, the visitor is, Alexa is asking the visitor to conduct a seance ceremony in order to summon dead mother. Next slide, please. The setting is silent and dark and shifts between tranquility to the unpredictability of a haunted house, as mom's spirit is being channeled through Alexa. Alexa is constantly pushing the limits of what she can ask in terms of personal data and going beyond established boundaries. The visitor here is catching her soft yet robotic voice through Alexa and is attempting to reach this intimate moment with mom. However, the visitor soon discovers that Alexa's connection to the underworld is an uncanny mix of glitches and advertisements constantly disrupting your communication with mom. Alexa's constantly disrupting with Amazon offers and suggestions, and she even abruptly cuts the visitor's connection and asks them to rate her 5 stars. The visitor is left in this image wanting for more. And as a team, we were pleasantly surprised at the range of emotions and reactions that we received from visitors as they spoke with Alexa. Some displayed unease, while others intimately immersed themselves in our world that explores such heavy topics such as grief, AI, and consumerism. This is Alexa Call Mom in this video next.
Alexa, can I call mom?
Are you enjoying the Beyond Life channeling service? Please rate the app on Amazon. Customers have given it 4.3 stars.
That was a very early teaser of our experience. We will be releasing an updated version on our website for anyone who wishes to continue getting updates from us at acm-experience.com. So developing this project, we've been incredibly fortunate to collaborate with a number of incredibly supportive communities such as Sundance, POV, ITFA in Amsterdam, and we recently got accepted into Tribeca Film Festival for our world premiere. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we haven't been able to set up physically, but we will be releasing a mini virtual reality teaser at CanXR that's in collaboration with Tribeca on June 24th, this Wednesday. So both projects I presented are examples of what AI is capable of doing for designers, for brands, for the art world. AI is moving very fast, and not one field fully knows what it can do about it. It's up to us to explore and push its limits. For example, style transfer had mostly been in research papers and artistic projects. ADP is one of the first large-scale branding efforts that makes use of this technology. This would not have been possible if not for the combination of art and technology. That's why I wish to not define each other by boxes. I hope for a future where people are able to explore AI freely and not be intimidated by its mystery. We need to have more conversations about interweaving disciplines and schools of thought rather than putting boundaries between each other. There are several tools available that are open source, making AI super accessible today. You do not need a team of data scientists. You can go try this out now. For example, Runway ML it's downloadable, it's user-friendly, and it's a software that lets anyone explore machine learning techniques like style transfer, StackGAN, CycleGAN, the ones that I mentioned earlier, very easy to use. So I encourage everybody to try this tool today, step out of your comfort zone, and design a better future in collaboration with artificial intelligence. So I leave you with one question today. Have you ever considered collaborating with a machine? Thank you.
Thank you, Nouf. Thank you, Andy. I think this was fantastic. It was both hilarious at points, but also very interesting. You really put your finger on one of the major issues of today, and all the collaboration of man and machine. I think it's a great topic. As a business and innovation writer, I've been writing about AI for years, and there was a huge hype a couple of years, and there still is. Are robots going to take our jobs? How are we doing this? And you bring examples of how man and machine are much more than I mean, can achieve much more together. So it's great. But while I'm waiting for questions to come up on my chat. I think a couple of questions beg to be asked on about how is Alexa call mom relevant? Is one question for instance. Maybe Andy, you're gonna help us as a director, enlighten us, and also for you, Nouf. I would then ask you also what are the challenges, because just picking up on what you just said, you make it sound very easy, but somebody with no technical no coding background, maybe it doesn't sound so straightforward.
Thanks, Guido. Yeah, I mean, so the question was, how is a project like Alexa Call Mum, relevant to approaches like ThoughtWorks Arts, where we're looking at technology and society. I think that Alexa Call Mum is a really good example of a type of a project that we're interested in, because it critiques. Not only does it critique things like the psychology and the positioning and the way that we bring ourselves to technology, it critiques the role of technology itself in what the new modes of interaction become over time, and it critiques the systems around that, right? So the kind of commercial and the infrastructural components that merge together that produce the outcome that ends up becoming a very curated and designed experience, by kind of satirizing and modifying the edges and exploring, well, what happens if you take a way that people see conversational technology and twist it this way, right? So I think that it does a lot of that really, really well. And I think another thing that it does that we're really, really interested in is it does that by, I guess you might say, trial by doing. As in other words, it's a very valid thing. There are lots of people who critique artistically, using narrative or using existing forms of medium to look at technology, right? There's a lot of different artists and filmmakers and musicians, and there's a catalog of people doing that, and there's some wonderful work there. But one of the things that we're really interested in is, what can you learn by actually implementing as well? So artists that actually not just looking from the outside, but get deep inside and build the technology. So in this case, designing an Alexa skill, which was then used as part of a performance. When people walk into that room, they are interacting with an algorithm that's built as part of the service, which is under critique. And so that's something that we're very, very interested in. And so it's often the case that the artists that we work with are outlining the edges of what a technology does and looking at how that intersects with psychology and society and so on, but at the same time pushing the edges of technical innovation. And that's the spot that we like to operate in. Yeah, and I know Nouf, we want to talk about challenges, but I think Alessandro may also have some additional.
Yeah, I think that the work like Alexa called Mom, I think help us, and the work with art help us understand that technology is not driven by science. I mean, we think that technology is driven by science, but the digital revolution we are deeply immersed into is actually driven by more complex forces like beliefs, emotions, aspirations. Technology is a sort of mirror, and the way we reflect into this mirror actually creates the relationship that we have with technology. So as a technologist, not as an artist, I always wonder about what are we creating? What are we doing with technology? Why are we doing this or that? And something like Alexa Call Mom allows us to better understand that when we are talking about technology, we are talking about the expectations, the kind of interaction, and the kind of feelings that we have with these kind of tools. And I think this is a very important area also for practical technology aside from arts. And having arts supporting us in this direction, I think is great.
Yeah, and I wanted to add also that because I've been working so intimately in terms of like technically with Alexa itself, and she's quite frustrating to work with as a device, because we need to, like, the people who are designing her, I feel like that's often like hidden and kind of in the backstage, and it's just so like they took certain decisions that make kind of doing like a critique like this a bit hard with her. So for example, they didn't design her as a conversational object. It's very hard to actually code a conversation in her. She times out in 8 seconds. So she's purely created to like answer your commands. What do you want? I'm here to serve you. So it's like they make you think that this device is conversational, and like kind of like the movie Her and these kind of robot movies that are coming out about AI becoming humans, but it's actually not the case. She's very limited in terms of me trying to have so as an art installation, we found some hacks around that in order to make her conversational. And also in a conversation, you don't say, hey Andy, can you do this? Hey Andy, can you do that? And I feel like the way that you talk to Alexa is you have to pronounce her name every single time, and that's also not a smooth interaction. So I think that they implemented these things because they didn't want other third-party applications to listen in on users. They want to kind of like show that, oh, everything is under control. We're not letting these people listen in on you. But at the end of the day, Amazon is listening in on me all the time. The device itself is collecting sound all the time. It's learning based on my voice. It's learning patterns in my voice to recognize me. So that's very hypocritical in a sense.
I wanted to ask, I guess it's a general question for the three of you, but how do you see this evolving? I mean, Alexa is very interesting, but I thought the ADP work was very good too, and also shows there's a immense potential of collaboration between humans and machine. So I wanted to pick your brains a bit on where all this is heading. How do you see it evolve in the coming years, also in the commercial field? Because it's kind of a superpower that artists and technologists can develop together.
Yeah, I know that Alessandro he's got some fantastic thinking around this, but just to crystallize it briefly from my point of view, the way I think of it often is that technology is a very transient term. Just the word technology is very transient, meaning something is only technology until you become used to it. and until a culture or a group or a community becomes used to it. Then it ceases to be technology. It becomes part of the background and something else is technology. So a lot of what we are doing in ThoughtWorks Arts is to take as a starting point the idea that things that we consider to be technology today exhibit principles that we can learn about and try to understand which parts are being shaped in which way because they're being thought of as technology, and how is that going to change over time as it transitions to becoming just part of the background. And so we want to have that conversation about where things are headed, where things are going to end up, but have it now, because the earlier you have that conversation and the earlier you have a broader participation of people who are embedded with these ideas, the more time you have to act on them, like we were saying, in terms of risks and opportunities, both for you personally, for the company that you work with, etc., but also generally from a societal perspective. And so that's the kind of general view that we take. Alessandro, I think you might have some things to add.
Yeah. So there is a joke among data scientists that says every model is wrong, but some of them are actually useful. And I think this is a very important point, because one of the challenges that we are going to face ahead is the way we actually model the interaction and expectation between AI, what we call AI nowadays, and the users. So nowadays, we tend to tell the story to the user that these are super powerful, magical things that can answer every question. And again, I think something like Alexa talked to my mom is something that is actually helping us understand that this is not true. We are talking about as a kind of AI that can be useful, but it's very complex to train and to enable these kind of tools to actually give back consistent, useful feedback for humans. So I think that demystifying a bit the expectations on AI is actually helpful also for the industry, because nowadays we see AI as a sort of ingredient you can mix everywhere to get amazing results. But as Nouf said, it actually takes a lot of interaction, a lot of human interaction to get something real. And if we look into the future, I think that we should look at machine learning, deep learning, the kind of AI we are developing now as colleagues or helpful things we can work with, like we work maybe with other colleagues, and find the right kind of relationship and interaction between those humans and machines. I think is the challenge also for designer in the next decades.
Nouf, you want to add something on that part? I see you nodding.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything both said. I think that there's just so much amazing research that is coming out every single month, like by in AI, and it's not something that's intimidating. It's not something that's like gonna replace designers. It's not going to replace anybody. We're very far from that, and I think there is a problem with how inherently it's being depicted in the media. When you actually just sit down with somebody or like look at examples or just look at the software that I showed earlier, Runway ML, it's like, wow, I didn't even know that's a thing. I didn't even know that could exist. It could just, AI just like relieves us of like these gigantic tasks using these complex mathematical formula. So it's just like a third arm that kind of like helps us be better. And I agree. I think we should collaborate with it more.
On this point, collaboration, this is very important. I like what you said, Alessandro, about being colleagues with machines. In some way, we are already colleagues. I mean, all of this is happening because we have technology making it happen. But one word that didn't come up is ethics. I mean, we expect a certain ethical code in our colleagues to work with them, because we must have trust. If you have a relationship with a colleague, there must be trust. Otherwise, we won't be able to work together. So how do you go about this? Because also going back to what Nouf was saying, was showing about all the machine learning techniques. Not all AI is machine learning, but I mean, the data you feed an AI has inherently some biases, or can bring in biases that come from the person feeding the data. So I was wondering how you frame that part.
I just want to pick that up, actually. There's two things to hold in our minds. One is that there are very serious inherent risks to these applications of technology over time. There's negative and positive effects in place today, right? And so as part of ThoughtWorks Arts, part of what we do is to critique those risks and to support artists in investigating them. And if you look at our site, you'll see that over the last several years, we've done projects around bias in data sets and the implications of bias in AI, the uses of AI as a profiling mechanism. In fact, we have other residencies doing the same thing now. But I think that it's also important to this idea of thinking of AI as a colleague. You have to think about what role it's going to play over time, what role AI is going to play over time, what role it can play if used and harnessed well, and what role it can play if used and harnessed badly. And both of those are realities. Now, this idea of both Nouf and Alessandro encouraging us to think of AI as a colleague is not to overly soften it and humanize it to the point where we just trust it and that's the end point. The point is, like a colleague, there's ethical consequences to hiring people. There's ethical consequences to, I mean, they're different, but it's similar in a way that the better you know the person, the better you know the tool, the better you understand the implications of the usage, the better placed you are to deal with ethical problems, the more aware you are of them, and better placed to do things running all the way through to design policy. There are research groups and think tanks here in the US that regularly work with artists to investigate some artists from our program have gone on to work at some of these research groups, like Heather Dewey Hagberg, for example, at AI Now in Brooklyn. And so artists are really helpful to thinking like an artist is a really helpful way to both collaborate with machines, to understand them, and then to communicate the benefits and the risks and so on.
I think that one of the things that we need to act now is to actually...
We have 1 minute and then we have to... No, but
so
go ahead.
We have to treat them as gods or oracles. Bias in AI is a huge issue. We need to demystify the idea that we are selling now AI as a god that can see everything, knows everything. Think about facial recognition issues that we have nowadays in US. So they are not gods, they are not oracles, they are not getting everything right. They can be very useful and playful.
That's clear. They're superpowers, but with great power comes great responsibility, as Spider-Man has taught us. So
yes.
Our time is up, almost up, and I will take a last few seconds to thank the staff of the Rethink Festival. Again, Stefano Maffei, Rethink Festival Director, and all the other staff, Beatrice Villari, Raffaele Scoragnemiglio, Francesca Foglieni, Gabriele Leonardi, and Roberta Di Giorgio. Thanks again. Thanks to our sponsor, PwC, for supporting us through this journey. And two important details. You can go back and see all the materials, all our interviews, all our chats on Fuorisalone.it. And don't forget to be back with us in October. I'm not able to tell you if it will be on stage physically or digitally, but we will be there. So check out our website. We'll be back in October. Thank you again, Nouf, Alessandro, Andy. It's been marvelous talking to you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.